Hello and welcome everyone to the session on learning RPA with UiPath. In this session, we are going to learn solving a problem where we create a process that is going to ask the user for a purchase amount, and it should then calculate the value added tax and then finally the total purchase amount. And the amount that is calculated must be displayed in the message box, as well as it must be displayed in the console window, that is output panel. Okay, so this problem needs to be solved with the help of three workflows, that is entering purchase amount and then calculating the value added tax and then the main workflow. So through entering purchase amount, we are going to ask the user for entering the purchase amount, and then calculating value added tax is going to calculate the tax on the purchase amount, and then finally it is going to add it to the purchase amount and then displays it as per the requirement. Okay, so let us go back to the UiPath Studio and start building this. So I have created a project in which I have the main workflow. So first of all, we should create the entering purchase amount workflow, wherein we can ask the user for giving the user input for purchase amount. Okay, and later we will create one more workflow which is calculating value added tax. Okay, through which we are going to calculate and then finally display the result. Okay, so let me create a new sequence, entering purchase amount. Okay, so I've created the sequence. So let me bring in the sequence activity here. So the thing that is required here is input dialog. Okay, so let us drag and drop this input dialog and then configure this. Okay, and okay, so let us give the dialog title. Here again we will say purchase amount and then label. Let us give a label, enter the purchase amount and then save it. Let the type be text box, and let us store the result given by the user in a variable. So control K, and here I'll say purchase amount. Okay, yeah, fine. So through this workflow we're going to get the purchase amount. Okay, fine. So now we need to pass on this purchase amount to calculate value added tax workflow, a new sequence. Okay, so let us configure that first, and later we can call that calculate value added tax workflow here in this entering purchase amount workflow. Okay, so let us create one more workflow, or you can say sequence. Here we will say calculate tax. Okay, simply we will name it as calculate tax. Okay, so a new sequence is created, and now let us bring in the sequence activity. Okay, so here we should have the indirected argument so that we can grab the value that is entered by the user in the entering purchase amount workflow. Okay, so let us go to arguments panel and then create an argument, say in purchase amount. This is how it needs to be named, because this will indicate that this is an indirected argument which is coming into this particular workflow. Okay, and let us change this argument type to system.double, because purchase amount can have decimal values. Okay, so fine. So we have created the argument. Now let us use simple assign activity to calculate the tax. Okay, so let us create a variable in which we are going to store the tax that is calculated on the purchase amount. I'll say control K and I'll say VAT, value added tax, right? So fine. So on the right hand side we should now exactly calculate the tax. How do we do that? I'll say in underscore purchase amount and then multiplied by 0.15. It means 15% of tax. Or we can also do it this way, 15 and then divide it by 100. Okay, so at the beginning we should have a bracket. Both mean one and the same. Okay, but here in this case it is going to give you certain sort of error that we should be able to solve. Okay, the thing is VAT is of type string, that's why it is giving an error here. Let us go to variables panel and change the variable type of VAT to system.double. Okay, fine. So the error has gone. Now we have calculated the tax. We should now add this amount to the purchase amount that the user has to finally bear. Okay, so let us use one more assign activity and then here I'm going to add the VAT plus, or you can do it the reverse way, in underscore purchase amount plus the VAT. Okay, this is the final purchase amount that the user has to pay. Okay, let us create one more variable, say final amount. Okay, I have created one more variable which is final amount. Again this would be of type string. Let us change this to system.double and then we are done. Okay, and let us display it in a message box as well as in the log window. Okay, so I'm just gonna configure the message box. Purchase amount is, I'll say final amount dot to string, because we are trying to concatenate string with a double value. Okay, so this would display the final purchase amount. The same thing we are going to repeat it in the log window as well. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in the log message activity and let us configure this like this. Okay, and then let us set the log level, let it be info. Okay, fine. So we have configured the calculate tax workflow. Now we should come back to entering purchase amount, where we should exactly pass on the value that is entered by the user. Okay, so in order to do that, once again we will make use of invoke workflow activity, invoke workflow file after the purchase amount is entered. Okay, so this time we are going to call calculate purchase amount. Okay, and import arguments. Oops, sorry, we should not call the entering purchase amount, instead we should call the calculate tax. Okay, because that is where we should pass on the value. Now it says one item in the dictionary. Okay, let us say import arguments and expand this and then configure the value for in purchase amount. So here it is purchase amount. This is the value that is entered by the user. Okay, and then let us save this. Okay, so here is an error because purchase amount is of type string. So let us go to the variables panel here in the entering purchase amount workflow, and then change this type to system.double. Okay, because we are dealing with the double type, so let us stick to that. Okay, so now we have configured this. So entering purchase amount is going to accept the user input and then call the calculate tax workflow, and then the calculate tax workflow is going to explicitly calculate the tax, finds out the final amount, and then displays it in the message box as well as log message. So now the only thing that is remaining here is configuring the main sequence. So the entire project is going to run through the main workflow, so that's why we should configure this. Okay, so the only thing that we should do here is invoke workflow file in the main sequence. Okay, so let us select the entering purchase amount workflow and then say import arguments. There are nothing to be passed, there are no values to be passed in fact from this particular invoke workflow. Okay, so let us save this. So let me give you a brief recap of what we have done. So we have created a project in which we have two workflows, which is entering purchase amount and the calculate tax workflow apart from main workflow. And then in the entering purchase amount workflow, we have accepted the user input, and then we have called another workflow which is calculate tax, wherein we are passing out the purchase amount. And then in the calculate tax, we have calculated the tax and then finally added it to the purchase amount and then displayed it using the message box as well as log message. And then ultimately in the main sequence, we are going to call entering purchase amount. So from main, the execution starts and then entering purchase amount is called, and in the entering purchase amount sequence, it is going to call the calculate tax and then ultimately displays it. Okay, so let us run this. So this problem can be solved in multiple ways. This is one of the ways in which it can be solved. So it has started the execution. So let us enter the purchase amount, say 2500, and press OK. It says the purchase amount is 2875. This is the final amount. It means 375 rupees of tax has been calculated because we have given it to be 15%. Okay, so this is how the problem needs to be solved, by making use of arguments as well as multiple set of sequences. Okay, I hope you have understood this. If you have understood, please hit a like button and then subscribe to the channel for more such videos. Thank you.